is is me doing my show. Ba, ba, ba. Yeah. So clearly, I don't have a guest again. Week 3 in a row. I'm going on a streak. I joked about doing weekend at Bernie's with somebody, so I guess I'll talk about that for a bit. And if I get bored, I'll talk about another thing that somebody joked about me talking about after that. Maybe it'll be a split episode. We'll see. Alright. So we're gonna have Bernie's. You got some like college age interns working at some insurance firm, and they're like, whoa dude, there's something wrong with this thing here. This is like $2 million of money that's being frauded from the company we work for. So they go, their boss, and they're like, dude, look at this. And he's like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, dude, it checks out. And he's like, well, good job. Let's double check this at my swanky house that you're too poor to afford. And they're like, sweet, check it. Right? And so they go to his house, but it turns out that he's like involved with the mob, and he wants the mob to kill him, which is why he brought him to his house. But then the mob's like, nah, fam, this Bernie guy, because that's the boss's name is Bernie. They spend a weekend at Bernie's. You get it? They're like, nah, this dude's crazy. So they're like, all right, we're gonna kill Bernie instead, and not even worry about them. They'll probably just be implicated instead of us, right? So the dudes go, and they're like, well, dude, this dude's dead because mob like killed him before they showed up, right? And then everybody is like, well, dude, Bernie, what's up, man? How's it going? Because they don't realize he's dead. But the teenagers like, we can't tell anybody because then they're gonna think that we killed him or something. Because they later find out that he left a note about them like trying to steal money for stuff, and how that, like, yeah. So he tried framing them, right? Yeah. So basically, whole movie is like they're trying to like act like it's chill that they got a corpse hanging around at the corpse's house, no less, while everybody's trying to party with said corpse, right? Yeah. And there's also a subplot where one of the dudes is trying to get a girlfriend of the girl who is at another intern at the place that they work for the Bernie dude. But dude's kind of lame, and girl has standards, but she thinks he's silly, basically. Yeah, so that's pretty much the movie. This dudes act like dead guy ain't dead. I guess the hitman that killed him is like also like, well, dude, this dude's still alive. I killed him, and then he comes back and like strangles the corpse. Like, all right, he's dead now. And then he sees him again. He's like, what? How is he not dead? And he goes and just like riddles him with bullets at the end. Like, you're dead. And they're like, what, dude? And then he tries to kill the teenagers, and like, what, dude? And we're just here to. We're not even sure why we're here anymore. Apparently, he's trying to kill us, right? Um, so yeah. Um, so connect this to philosophy, because that's what this show is, right? Um, so the beginning is kind of a commentary on modern capitalism in the 1980s and how these dudes are working their butts off as interns for this multi-million-dollar corporation that just has this $2 million that gone missing, nobody noticed, and like one dude's still living with his parents and the other dude has his own apartment but is riddled with cockroaches. Like neither of them are like great off financially, and yet this dude's walking around, has pretty much his own private island because everybody on the island is like, "Yo, Bernie, you're what's up, right?" He's probably got the nicest house. We don't see anybody else's house, but it's probably the nicest house there, and that's probably a secondary house, no less. People don't usually live on islands in the winter. Like some people in Traverse, or what's that called? Mackinac Island, not Traverse Island. Traverse isn't an island. Closest thing is North and South Manitou, and people don't live there year round except maybe like one park ranger. Anyway, so yeah, commentary on contemporary capitalism, which is that you got these greedy dudes who want all this extra money that they don't need, and they're willing to kill these like go-getter kids in order to like keep that normalcy that is like their money. So that's like one thing. What does it say about death? That's a good question, me. Well, let's see here. Well, I guess it is interesting how like it explores the concept of like how you're not really dead as long as other people see you as alive. Like even after being like medically dead, Bernie is alive in the sense of like a cult of personality. Everybody's like, classic Bernie. And the dude who's trying to buy his car is like, oh, Bernie can just like up the price of this car just by like not doing anything. God, he's dead. Yeah. So like, cult of personality supersedes death, which is similar to Joseph Stalin in the Soviet era and Big Brother in the Orwellian era, i.e., 2018. What? So yeah, transcendence through who you are. What does it mean to be a bloke? Like them kids. Because all three of the kids are kind of blokes. Right? The girl's the smartest one. Like, let's be real. The most competent adult. But the two dudes are just blokes. I've been watching too much Doctor Who, calling everybody a bloke. So yeah, what does it mean to be a bloke? I mean, they nearly got killed. Like, so if Bernie hadn't been so greedy, i.e., if he hadn't become a like manifestation of sorts of capitalist greed, then he wouldn't have died, and instead these dudes would have died. Instead, due to their inability to like function autonomously because they're just functioning for the good of the company rather than for the good of themselves. You see, that's some philosophy right there, is sort of a self-utilitarianization of yourself. So, like, you give up your personal autonomy for the good of some greater entity, in this case, the company and the individuals themselves. So it's like a mechanization or automation of self in the face of the capitalist machine. Well, dude, is Weekend at Bernie secretly a modern, like, semi-contemporary critique of contemporary capitalism? And if so, what does it mean that it's a, like, mass-produced movie as part of, like, great, like, big social culture, like mass culture, mass media? Like, they're selling a product, but the product itself is, I'm supposing, a critical critique of selling stuff. So it's similar to the meta-narrative of Rubber, the 2010 film about a psychokinetic tire that goes on a murderous rampage. You know? Man, if you just skipped to episode 4 and didn't listen/watch episode 3, that would be like a really weird sentence, right? Meta-narrative, psychic tire killing. Anyway, what else? So yeah, if it wasn't for that weird stuff going on, they would have just died, right? Yeah, if it wasn't for his greed, they would have just died. What else happened? Welcome to the Ba Show. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not a super complex movie. I mean, most of it is playing off of the same joke just over and over and over. Ooh, what about that kid? Is the kid a symbol for something? Let's dig deeper and find out. So, the kid, like, so there's that part where he, like, knocks Bernie off the porch and he's just, like, corpse lying there, right? And kid comes along and starts burying him, right? So that's funny because, like, kid's playing with a dead body. But, like, what if the kid already knows? What if the kid is, like, beyond everybody? Like, forget being an adult. This kid, like, understands life and its mirror in death to the point that he creates art out of the dead body. Like, connect this to American Beauty, the 1999 film, and, like, that aesthetic moment, that moment of aesthetic attunement with the world, seeing the beauty that lies in the intersection of life and death, and how you can manipulate that to form, like, an even greater beauty and, like, transcend thought, you know? Yeah. Weekend at Bernie's is just as smart as American Beauty. I have proven it mathematically. So I guess this is a question for myself, but, like, am I doing this show as, like, a... Because, like, today I just thought about just not, right? But, like, if I don't today, then that sets precedent to not next week if I don't have a guest again, say. So, like, I decided to force myself today as sort of like a, similar to people who do that Inktober thing or any similar, like, daily or, like, regular interval activity. Like, some days or weeks or whatever interval, you just won't feel it, right? But here I am. But then the question is, like, I'm 15 minutes in now, and I usually do 50 minutes. How much do I have to do in order to, like, count it? I don't know. Weekend at Bernie's, it's not that complex. I found some interesting things, made some interesting comments about things, other vague stuff like that. So at the top, I mentioned that somebody had mentioned as a joke that I do philosophy of Spaceballs for an episode. So I think I'm going to throw that into this episode and do like a double episode, 2 title, maybe interweave them if the muses sing to me. So Spaceballs is a parody of Space Wars. Wait, no, Star Wars. Yeah. Space. Yeah. Anyway, it follows a character who's basically Han Solo and Luke Skywalker combined, and his buddy dog boy named Barf, who's the mirror to Chewbacca. And there's yogurt instead of Yoda, and a lady who's the lady, and Darth Helmet, who's Darth Vader, and incompetent lackeys who are incompetent lackeys. Yee. So what does it mean to parody a thing? So I suppose start with the difference between parody and the other one. What was the other one? There's parody and there's the other one. See, I don't want to have like dead silence on student radio because that's just fulfilling a stereotype, right? Or would, at this point, it'd be parody, or whatever the second one is. Guys, there's a second one that's like similar to parody, but it's different. I think SNL does it technically. Maybe it'll come to me. Anyway, one is one and one's the other. One's kind of smarter. Well, no. I mean, one makes fun of the thing to make fun of it, and the other makes fun of a thing to point out social commentary, which is what SNL does primarily. Is like, and the the Colbert Report by Stephen Colbert, basically like take things to a comical extreme in an effort to point out the inherent issues or hypocrisy or whatever they exist in the thing. So in the case of Spaceballs, they take the science fiction like narrative of the Star Wars franchise and take it to a comical extreme and take the characters individually to comical extremes. I think it's interesting that they combine Han Solo with Luke Skywalker in the film. So you have like the skullduggery character of Han Solo, but then he's also got the superpowers of essentially the Force, what they call it. He is the snarts. I don't know. It was also controlled with rings. I don't know if that was a dig at Lord of the Rings or what. Because it came out before any of the movies. Well, I suppose the animated movies would have come out already, probably. Because those are quite old. I can't guarantee that they're older. I mean, animation has gotten a lot better, but it's possible that those animated movies were just made super cheap. By hiring like one animator who was like super into it, despite the fact that his art style is kind of an interesting choice. So yeah, Spaceballs philosophy. Where do they intersect? Well, there is the part about like watching movie and breaking the fourth wall, where Darth Helmet is like trying to figure out where they went. So they like pull a copy of Spaceballs the movie off their like movie shelf and like put it in and fast forward a bit, but then they end up at like exactly the same spot. And it's funny. It's kind of like the 2010 film Rubber about the psychokinetic tire that kills people. Yeah. Yeah, so philosophy. So yeah, there's the meta-narrative thing that a lot of films actually kind of play with breaking the fourth wall. And well, I suppose it's different between Rubber and Spaceballs, because Spaceballs is like overtly breaking the fourth wall for comedic effect, whereas Rubber is sort of a downplayed like a introspection on watching a movie. Anyway, so I guess that's parody versus the other one. Satire. I knew it started with an S. Parody and satire. Tell that to 5 minutes ago me trying to be like, oh, the other one. Yeah, the other one, yeah. So yeah, parody makes fun of stuff to make fun of it, and satire makes fun of stuff for like a social commentary effect. So Weird Al just like changes the lyrics and makes a parody and like, haha, yeah, that's funny for like most of the songs. There's probably a couple that you can make a decent argument is satire because it actually makes a comment about the music industry or popular culture or politics or something relevant to the time that it was published. Can't really think of one specifically right now, so I'm not going to worry about it because this isn't an episode on Weird Al. So yeah, parody and satire in the film Spaceballs. So yeah, I mean, even with the names, they're taking the idea of like made up names so far that they circle back to real things that are just ridiculous. So Barf, the man dog, and Yogurt, the wizard, and Dark Helmet to describe the guy who has a dark helmet. Because, like, Darth Vader, like, I don't know how you come up with that name. Like, Darth probably means something, and Vader probably means something. I think Vader is a German word. Anyway. I mean, maybe Darth is too. Anyway, like, Yoda. I don't know how people came up with that name. In any case, parody, satire. I would argue that Spaceballs is parody, not satire. It doesn't have a entirely like complicated message about anything. Yeah. What else in Spaceballs? I mean, yeah. I mean, this, I haven't watched it recently, so it's not like other movies I talk about where like I watched it recently and now I'm talking about it. It is sort of a challenge that came up today. Um, yeah, I wouldn't say it's too complicated. Probably. Um, are there any concurrent themes between the movie Spaceballs and the movie Weekend at Bernie's? Um, I mean, mass consumer culture in a way. So I talked about like the greed of capitalism uh, themes in Weekend at Bernie's, sort of, and that sort of relates to like a external theme of Spaceballs as a parody of the highest grossing movie of the time, probably. Like, I don't know that for sure, but if I had to pick a movie to have been the highest grossing movie of all time by the time Spaceballs came out, it would probably be Star Wars Episode 4. I'm not really sure what other movie there would be because the Bible never had a movie. Well, I mean, we will try making Bible movies, but they never are successful in the same way that the Bible is the best-selling book ever. Anyway, yeah, so Spaceballs is a commentary on like mass-produced consumer culture in the 1980s revolving around the work of George Lucas and taking that to an extreme and then mass-producing that. Because there were, I'm 99% certain that there were toys and stuff made for Spaceballs just as there were for Star Wars. Yeah. So, going forward, I need to find actual guests for this show and like actually try harder. Yeah. So, for the rest of this episode, I'm going to make mouth noises. At least that's what I say right now. Who knows what happens in the next minute and a half. Let's go.